Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about a crime case that actually was very surprising to me because I don't really follow a lot of news outlets online. I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, I do follow an Italian one, La Repubblica, and imagine my shock when Torino, the city that I'm actually from, was involved in some way in this real fucking weird situation. Let's call it that. Anyway, I decided to do a little bit of digging and I found out more about that. So we're going to talk about it because it actually happened in New York, but it has some roots related to Torino. The whole situation seems like they're probably going to make a movie out of this at some point, honestly. Anyway, Italian tourist tortured and dangled from fifth floor for Bitcoin password. Do you see why I was like, wait, what? Already this story sounds insane, but let alone the fact that the guy just happens to be from Turin is crazy. Anyway, so it says, an Italian tourist was tortured by a crypto investor who allegedly dangled him from the fifth floor of a Manhattan townhouse to steal his Bitcoin passwords. Michael Valentino Teofrasto Carturan, 28, told police he had been held captive in a $30,000 per month 8-bedroom home for the past 3 weeks where he was beaten and electrocuted. It sounds so sci-fi and dystopian, the concept of getting kidnapped for a password to your digital wallet. You know, like back in the day, and this is making me feel real fucking old, but back in the day when people used to, you know, do bank heists or ask for cash, and now it's just like, hey, give me your password to your wallet that I can access from wherever. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm really showing my age here. The Italian eventually handed over his passwords after his captors threatened to kill him and his family. He managed to escape while the men's back were turned and alert the police. John Waltz, 37, known as the Crypto King of Kentucky, with an estimated worth of $100 million, has been arrested for the alleged torture. He faces 4 charges, including assault and unlawful imprisonment. He denies all of the offenses. The arrest comes as after a wave of cryptocurrency-linked kidnappings by criminals desperate to cash in on the coveted digital gold, including 2 men in France who were found with severed fingers and a broker who escaped from his captors in Spain. So I'm just curious though, the crypto king, John Waltz, who has an estimated worth of $100 million, why? I understand that human greed doesn't really have any limits, blah, 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 whatever. But the absolute risk you're taking, it's like if you're not desperate, why would you take a risk like that? Apart from the fact that, you know, torturing people is bad. But putting aside that, because I think morality went out the window a long time ago, why would you risk all of that? You're worth $100 million. Who knows how much you actually have in the bank? But still, that's a massive risk to take. Or maybe this John Waltz guy is an adrenaline junkie, bored, whatever. We've seen it happen before. It's just always so strange when I see people who actually don't need to do half of the things they do, put their lives on the line, their freedom on the line for something like this. For money they probably don't need. Again, being worth $100 million does not mean he has $100 million. I understand that. I don't know how much he has in the bank. But at the same time, it's like, surely you have resources. Surely you didn't have to come to this. For anyone, but especially someone who probably is connected. Someone who probably has friends who could help him if he really were in some kind of bind. Michael Matson, an assistant district attorney, told a Manhattan court that the victim was abducted on May 6th when he went to Mr. Waltz's Soho flat after traveling from Italy to New York City. It is not clear why Mr. Carturan went to the apartment or what his relationship to the accused is. When he got there, Mr. Waltz allegedly snatched the Italian man's electronic devices and passport before demanding that he turn over his Bitcoin password. When he refused, the victim told officers he was bound by the wrist with electrical wire and tortured. At one point, the captors carried the victim to the top of the flight of the stairs of the apartment in the compound and hung the victim over the ledge after threatening to kill him if he did not provide the defendant with the victim's Bitcoin password. Prosecutors also alleged that the victim was urinated on and forced to take crack cocaine during the ordeal. They also cut his leg. Sources told the New York Post that Mr. Carturan was fitted with an AirTag that tracked his movements, but he made a daring escape on Friday just after 9:30 a.m. as he ran out of the townhouse in the Norita neighborhood of Manhattan and toward a traffic agent nearby. Police found cocaine, a saw, chicken wire, body armor, night vision goggles, ammunition, and Polaroid photos of the victim with a gun pointed to his head during a search of the townhouse. The victim was taken to a hospital and treated for injuries that Mr. Matheson said were consistent with his descriptions of being bound and assaulted. This is so wild. The fact that, well, the implication here is that they put the AirTag on him to track him, right? It wasn't like his own weird security thing, right? So the fact that they went so far as to have an AirTag on him is wild, because the implications are, not only do you expect this man to try to run away, which obviously if you have him bound, he's going to try and run away. Obviously, if you're torturing him, he's going to try and run away. But the fact is that not only do you expect him to try to run away, you also expect to, chase him down? Like, what's the point of the AirTag? Unless you're going to play some long con to just, let him go and then, 6 months later find him or pop up on him somewhere. The implication is you're going to chase him down. All of this is so wild because, again, we return to the main point, which is this money actually even for that Waltz guy who's worth $100 million, or is this about something else? Because the more I'm reading about this, the more this seems like there has to be more of an explanation, in the sense of, you don't just invite some guy over when you're worth a lot of money and ideally should have a lot of money still. You invite a guy over, you snatch his passport, you ask for his Bitcoin password, and then you torture him and bind him and basically dangle him off the side of a building? Is that all for a password, or is there some other stuff going on? Because in my head, I feel like there's some other stuff going on. Because keeping someone for weeks, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I feel like there has to be some extra stuff that we don't know about, because that seems extreme. Even for a robbery, that sounds like a lot of effort for a robbery. Also, if you put yourself in the position of the robbers, hiding his location, making sure nobody calls the police on you, making sure he's quiet, all these things that, people could technically report you for, that would then bring the police to your place, that would then break your plan. That's a lot of stuff. On Saturday, Mr. Waltz, who was being held without bail, was ordered to surrender his passport as prosecutors said he had means to flee, including a private jet and a helicopter. He's due back in Manhattan criminal court next week. A second man, who has only been named as an unapprehended male, is also alleged to have taken part. An Italian woman identified as Beatrice Folchi, Mr. Waltz's assistant, was reportedly arrested and charged in the case, but she told the New York Post on Saturday that she had not been arrested. It is the third reported case of kidnappings targeting those linked to cryptocurrency fortunes. So the article, I'll link it down below, it goes on to give other examples of people who were kidnapped due to cryptocurrency. I'm not going to go into all of that because I like to focus on one case at a time. This is very interesting, mainly because, like I said, I really don't think we have a full answer here, unless I'm really underestimating criminals today, which is potentially true. The fact of kidnapping someone and going through all that it takes to fuel that for weeks is crazy. And when I say fuel that, it's also okay, this is going to make me sound like a psychopath, but whatevs. So if I were to kidnap someone, much like in this situation, we also have to remember that these are humans, right? So you have to feed them multiple times a day. You have to make sure, like I said before, they don't run away and tell the cops what you're doing. You have to, potentially, depending, allow them to go to the bathroom, potentially allow them to shower. And all of these things have to be done in such a controlled manner because, again, you don't want them to run away from you, because if they do, then obviously they'll go to the police, much like what happened. So all of this stuff is like a 24-hour full-time job. No sleeping must have happened here. So it's so confusing to me. It involves so much logistics that a regular person wouldn't think of. I'm sure there are plenty of other things that I'm not thinking of right now that kidnappers do have to worry about. Also because, I'm also wondering how it is that the police couldn't check his phone. Yeah, I know they took his phone, whatever, but I don't know, maybe I'm overestimating technology, but as someone who's into crypto, you might think he would be technologically advanced enough to have some kind of system. I don't know. Like, I don't know if they turned off his phone. I don't know if they could not, see the towers that his phone was pinging off of. A lot of the times that's a very big area. But did he not tell anyone who he was visiting? Did he not tell anyone where he was staying? And granted, maybe they took him to another place, but it sounds like they held him up in the apartment of Waltz. Did he not tell anyone he was going to Waltz's apartment? I'm so confused as to how it ended up going this way. Now, granted, there are plenty of scenarios in which perhaps the kidnappers were organized enough to make it rather seamless, to text family back if family texted or whoever texted and just make things sound normal. That being said, this is concerning not only because of obviously it's a crime, but just like the level of organization in this day and age with technology and the way that you can track everyone and know where everyone is. The concept of this guy just being MIA and tortured for like weeks on end to the point where he just had to run out is crazy. Anyway, you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.